Hello, my name is Chaz Hampton. I'm an instructional student assistant for CSE 455 Software Engineering. Today we'll be going over a basic Xcode tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be making an app to convert a US dollar into Japanese yen. So first step is go ahead and open up Xcode. On a Mac you can just command space, type in Xcode, use your search bar at the top. Or kind of find it however you need to. But once you find it, you'll be presented with a page that looks similar to this. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the Create New Xcode Project option. And we'll let that do its thing. So from here, we're going to start off with a single view application. So we're going to leave everything as it is and click Next. For product name, I'm going to call it USD to yen. We'll leave this all the same. It should be set up like this. You should have your language set up as Swift, and we're going to use the storyboard interface as well. Yours might also have some of these options checked. Go ahead and uncheck them. We're not going to need those. So I'll just go ahead and make a new folder. Call it tutorials. Actually, I want to move that onto my desktop. And I'm going to leave this unchecked for the Git repo. So we can always set up Git later with the command line. So we'll let Xcode initialize our project. So you'll be presented with this screen, the General tab. First, all this can stay as it is. Pretty much you don't need to make any adjustments in this view here, pretty much until you go to publish your application or the application starts yelling at you and you need to come in here and fix something, or you might need to come in here to change some things. Maybe you're getting a bug that could be related to something, the build settings or something else. But basically for now, don't worry about anything that's here. Most of the time you don't need to worry about any of it until you've almost finished up whatever application that you've been working on. So where we do most of our work is going to be over here in this tab. So depending on how your Xcode was initially opened, you may or may not be showing this tab or this tab. So if you can't see any of the sidebars, you can come up here, and on these options you can actually expand and collapse these. So we happen to have 3 additional ones that we can use. Looks like this left one is called the inspector. We have the debug area, which is kind of like the console and your output. And then we have this over here, which is our navigator tab. So I tend to leave the 2 left and right tabs open while I'm working, and once I get to a point where I'm running an application, I'll leave that open, which it'll open up automatically as soon as we run our simulator. So you can see this is a ribbon-based application where we have toolbars and sort of drop-down type things. So what we're going to do, first of all, is build the interface, and then we'll go in and fill in the code to support it. So we can see here that we have some .swift files. The 2 files we'll be using is the Swift controller, or the view controller.swift, and the main storyboard. Clicking on the main storyboard will present you with the graphical GUI interface of your design. This is where we're going to start. Pretty much this allows you to just add things. You can also, if you like, which I'm not going to go over in this tutorial just because I actually prefer the storyboard, you can right click, open as source code, and edit it in this style if you like. Obviously this is a lot similar to the default version in Android Studio, which this is fine as well. They both work exactly the same. So if you want to change it back, just go back to open as, and we're going to put it back on our storyboard. So this is where we build our user interface, and if we click on the view controller.swift, this is the code that's going to be associated with our storyboard. These 2 Swift files, we don't need to worry about them now. They're just kind of supporting files and other master files that are used. The assets is where we have our images. launch screen is the launch screen for your application. And then we have other resources down here that we're not going to get into in this tutorial. So to get started, let's open up our main.storyboard, and we can expand our view controller scene here. So first thing we're going to do is we need to add some things. So we're going to add a label, a text field, a button, an additional label. So what we're going to do is up here at the top, assuming that you're on an updated version of Xcode, which you should be and need to be. So we're going to click on this plus button. The first thing we're going to pull is a label, which it populates right here. You can just drag it on and drop it onto the screen. We'll just sort of leave that there. We're going to need a text field for our calculator. So we'll come back up here, type in, there it is, text field. Put it on. We need a button. There's our button. We need a label. Another label, I should say. So we could either drag another one or just Command C V. So Command copy and then V for paste and get that there. So here's all our elements that we're going to need for our user interface, right? And they haven't had any constraints placed on them to kind of keep them in the screen. So what we're going to need to do is utilize the auto layout, which will set up our layout for varying screen sizes from the iPhone 6 all the way up to the iPhone Max. So what I tend to do is I'll get things kind of expanded a little bit just to where I would like them to be. And then the best way, since this is just a simple converting app from, alright, we'll fill this one. So this is USD to N converter. So we'll just leave that right there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put these into a stack view, which will make auto layout far easier. So we're going to come over here and we're going to choose the vertical stack view, and we'll drag that on there, and you can see all these things are populating over here in this little sidebar, which is another way to select different objects or multiple objects. So let's just expand this out a little bit. Awesome. And then I'm thinking of leaving this one out, and then I'll pull these and just drag them. You can see here when I hover over or right on top of the stack view, that blue arrow goes underneath it. That's how you know it's going into the stack view. You can also just drag them into the stack view. I prefer this because I know exactly what's happening. So I'll select my stack view. Let's bring it out a little bigger. And then it does take a bit of playing around. Okay, so we went ahead and pulled out these three objects just because our stack view is a little smushed. So something that I forgot to do was we need to add some basic constraints to these other objects first, especially the stack view, since this is what we're going to be putting everything else in. So we'll set the stack view up first, and then we'll worry about our other objects. So this looks like a good size. Let's go ahead and center this horizontally and vertically. And then you can see Xcode starts yelling at us. Do I have anything on that? No. Awesome. So let's see if Xcode knows what we are wanting. So we'll go ahead and select our text field, pull that into the stack view, put our button underneath, and our label back underneath that. Alright, so this is what we were wanting our interface to look like. Let's actually do one thing here. Let's change the background of this. So that's going to be also found over here. I believe this is called the attribute inspector. So just click this, Let's try a blue. Actually, never mind, not blue, because that's also the blue of the button. Or no, actually, yeah, it's a good point. So let's change the text color of our button, and let's make it black. Sweet. And then we should also the background for our button. Let's make that a gray. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go about adding the logic and the code into this interface. Let's check whatever Xcode is yelling at us for really quick. Let's change that. Fine. What's the issue here? Yes, automatically. And yes, this is what we want it to look like. So, to connect all of our objects that we've made and then set them up in their certain way. So, the first step to that is we need to edit this viewcontroller.swift file. And you can click back and forth between these two, but I like to have a constant view of this while I'm editing the Swift file as well. So what I'm going to do is select these lines, and I'm going to click on the Assistant Editor. And this should automatically pop up the view controller that is associated with the view that you have selected in your storyboard. And if it doesn't, it's probably because this isn't set on automatic. If it's not, don't worry, just click here, click on automatic, and then the view controller. See if we make a new room. I usually, if I was editing this, I would close these two, but just for clarity's sake, and so you can see every detail of what I'm doing, I'm going to leave them open for now. So we'll go ahead and define our variables up here at the top. So what we're going to need is we'll connect this. We can hold Control and drag, and then release. That'll let us connect it. We can also select it from here, hold Control and release. So for our text field, let's call that text field 1. Hit enter to connect it. Let's pull this label in. Call that my label 1 and hit connect. And then our button is actually going to be different because we want something to happen when they select that button. So Xcode actually will connect this as an action. You can also connect this as a regular outlet, but we do want the action. So in the same way, we're going to drag that over. We can see here it's an action. We'll leave that. That's what we want. And we'll call this my button 1, just to stay with the convention we've been using. Awesome. Alright, so now that we have it, we need to figure out how we're going to work with all these things. So we have our two variables and our button here. So the first step is let's get the input from user, and that's going to come from this text field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say let text field value. So we're going to make a new variable just to get the value of the text that someone entered in there. And to do that, with the calculation, we're going to want to double. So we'll just go ahead and cast that now, double. And our text field we called text field 1. Hit enter. And we need the dot text to get the text out of that. And we need to set it as an optional because it might not be set, and we want to avoid a crash. And we want to let Xcode know that this might not be set. And then what we're going to do is say, hey, you know, we left that as an optional, it might not be set, so we need to check. So if value is set, let's say if text field value is not equal to nil, so as long as it's not empty, let's create a new variable called result. Make sure it's double. And what we're going to do is set that equal to the text field value as an optional times the current conversion for yen. So let's quickly find out what that is. USD to yen. Alright, so this is the current value. This might be different depending on when you're doing it. Just enter the updated one here. And then let's add a comment and just say value for yen taken on 3 on today. Okay. Awesome. So now result is going to have the value in yen from USD. Right, and then let's go ahead and display this value onto our label here. So we say my label1 dot text is going to be equal, and this is escaping with 2 parentheses. This is how we're going to enter our variable into the string. So we're going to take our text field value as an optional. So what the user entered in USD is going to be equal to a certain amount in yen. I want to go ahead and put the yen symbol here, so let's just find that from the internet. Yen symbol. Okay. Paste that. We'll do another backslash parentheses, and our result is the value that we want to display in yen. And then once we're done with that, we'll go ahead and clear out the text field for the user, just in case they want to enter another value. They don't have to painfully go in there and delete it. So nothing. And then we also need to take care of the situation where the user is entering blank information. So in the case that they haven't entered a value, we just want to go ahead and tell them that with the label that's on the bottom that we would usually use to display the conversion. And we'll say value to convert cannot be blank. Okay, so we should be ready to run this now. We can do Command B to build our project, Command R to run it. We can also come up here and click on Run. Make sure you have a simulator selected. If you don't have them, you can download them here. If you have it set on generic iOS device, it will not run. You could also plug in your own device and run it by selecting it here when it displays after you plug it in. So I have that simulator selected. Let's click Run. Awesome. Here's our value of 1. Awesome. Let's try 5. Alright, looks like it's working. Let's go ahead and make sure that the user can't just have nothing. And there it is. So we can see here it's a little bit cut off. I'll leave that to you guys to go in there and fix. Basically, all you need to do is click on the label and change some of the constraints, and it'll show all of that. But this is the code that you need to submit. It can be found online. I'll have the link posted right underneath the video. I would suggest following along with this and trying to do it as much by yourself as you can, because it's really important that you get these basic concepts down when you go out to make the real project. You know, it's very much like we give you the stepping stones and then you're able to take it all the way. So we won't be having tutorials on super advanced topics. So you are expected to learn the basics and then, you know, kind of go forth and learn everything else that you need to with the resources that you have available. So if you have any questions, please send me an email. It's 005-145-955 at coyote.csusb.edu. You can find my email on the syllabus as well.